Hi again, everybody. This video is sponsored by contribution from Anonymous, and here's her story. Hi, Ollie. I wonder if you would mind covering these topics on your channel. It's about narcissistic people's attitude towards people with disabilities, a topic I have not seen much about online, to do with narcissistic abuse, that is. Also, whether there was sexual abuse by my mother, or have I got it wrong? Note, I'm well aware there are many disabled people who are narcs too, but this letter is long enough already for me to go on about that as well. I'm not a social justice warrior victim type either. Oh God, no. I hope this doesn't upset anybody, but it is what it is. I recently wrote in for the baby boomer narcissistic females at work video. A bit of background: I'm one of two scapegoats of a narcissistic mother. There is a golden child. Neither sibling has any health problems, nor do my children. However, I'm visually impaired since birth. I have several eye conditions. I am grateful for the sight that I do have and make the best of it. Who knows what one day it could be lights out for me. To look at me, you can tell there's a problem. Many people have pointed that out to me, including my narc mother. Old people feel the need to tell me what a shame my life is, and people say condescendingly, I don't know how you do it. When people I meet learn that I have kids, one of the first things they usually say is, are they like you? They seem disappointed when I say no. My mother is the polar opposite of what a mother should be. When my kids were babies, she said I spoiled them by picking them up when they cried. What the fuck? Maybe she didn't want me to bond with them. You know, when you only remember bits and pieces, can't make much sense of it. Well, when I was around, say, 7-ish, before my other scapegoat brother was born, it was a weekend, and a male doctor came to the house. I was well, just fine. I wondered why he was there, and I was scared. My mother forced me to strip naked and stand in front of him. I didn't want to. I was scared. I thought I was going to wet myself. I'm shaking like a leaf as I type this, not sure why. The memory about that time is blank from there. Is that sexual abuse by my mother making me do that? Sorry if this is TMI, but maybe relevant. She often had me at the doctor's office, stripped from the waist down, legs apart, male doctor rubbing some kind of cream into my vagina up and down for what seemed like ages, while my mother held my legs open at the knees and watched on. I didn't like it at all, and I was scared to cry. I was only young then. She always seemed keen for the male doctor to listen to my chest, just in case of what? Just in case of what? She would say that when we were in the waiting area, and I would be worried more as I got older, and my body began to change. Do as the doctor says. I didn't like it. I had to lift my clothes right up above my nipples, take deep breaths while my mom looked at my chest, holding a corner of my clothes up. You know what they're like. Got to be right in there, so I was embarrassed. I didn't feel like it. I feel silly now, as it doesn't bother anyone else. Just a normal thing, right? Do you think she got something out of that? What is that about? The stripping naked for some reason. There were female doctors in a group practice. Her assisting. Have I read it all wrong? As a teen, she caught me off guard, told me, show me, I want to look at the crop top training bra thing I had on under. I was scared of my own mother. I didn't want to, but I lifted up my t-shirt only. She said, it's crinkly, not enough in there yet. When I had my first period, she had a rage. Look at the mess you made. I was never allowed painkillers. It was horrendous and shaming me. Then called her friends to tell them, like, as if I were some kind of freak or something that would never happen to me. One time I was in the bathroom and she made me pull my pants down and show her my pubic hair. Why would she want to see that? I'm not joking here. That can't be right. I have never, nor will I ever treat my children like that. Many years later, when I got pregnant with my first child, a different male doctor took me by surprise as he wanted to listen to my chest, but I was too scared to say no. Big girl now and all that. The next thing, and then the next thing, he just did it. It was awkward to say, at least sickening down it down my top. At least sticking it down my top. I was worried that he could tell I was scared. My heartbeat, it was scared by my heartbeat. He probably could. Cringe. My mother told me over the years when I was a teenager words to the effect of how I was a burden, and she begrudged me all those times she had to sit there with me at the hospital, surgeries for my eyes. She would say, "How do you think that made me feel, eh?" That hurt my feelings. It seemed as though she was after an apology from me. She'll be waiting a long time. She has the right to her opinion, but she shouldn't have gone to a counselor. She should have gone to a counselor, not the child. She does not agree with counseling. When she found out that I had seen the school counselor by bullying it out of me about my every move, she was furious and said, "No, you don't tell her anything. You talk to me." And the classic scream, "I'm your mother." She demanded to know what I talked about, but I refused to say, but I was scared of her. Seems ridiculous in hindsight. She also got like that when I refused to disclose what's in my bank account. She said, "What do you think I'm gonna ask you for some do you?" Of course she was the greedy, lazy bitch. She also moaned about how my brother and sister got less attention than me because of you. This upset me, and I never showed it, as they can stand it if they can't stand it if you cry. And I learned to shut off at a young age. I can't help how I was born. This was the early 80s. I think she was ashamed to be the mother of the special needs child. She said she had to fight to stop them putting me into special needs schools. I went to a mainstream school, and they made some minor adjustments, such as painting lines on the edges of the steps, and I had a helper from time to time. I was very young in school. Some older boys shut me in the playhouse so I couldn't get out. I didn't call out for help, as I knew from a young age that no one would come help me. My teacher passing by stopped and lifted me out and told me off for not calling for help. The nurse once remarked, "You need a bit more help up here," gesturing to her chest. "Thanks for that, Mrs. D, you old bitch." That I was about 12 or 13 at the time. I don't think she was being a bitch. She was saying you needed more courage. I think she might have been trying to encourage you. A biology teacher, Mrs. S., who had a drinking problem and a violent temper, came up to me closely, staring and putting some black marker pen on my nose. I was frozen, stunned. This was in front of everybody. He said in a patronizing tone, "What's that pen on your nose?" I felt humiliated because he only did that so he could get close and have a look in my eyes. Biologist at all, and all. What a cunt. I hope he's dead now. Another teacher, Mr. F., had a speech impairment and was ridiculed by the kids in class often. I remember once he said to them, "That doesn't upset me, but it would upset my mother." I'll never forget that. So sad. He'd been there for a long time, and he left to work in another school. My sister saw him at the store she worked at, and he got married. And he got married too, so that was nice to hear. Unfortunately, some of my coworkers over the years, pardon the pun, can't see past it. My sight problem. Too fixated on what I can't do, rather what I can. Get right up in my face as they think I can't see them, or just have a good look. I back away. I find that intimidating. There's no need for that. When I go to hospital appointments for my eyes, I feel defensive towards the staff and in deep shame. But I'm realizing that now this is my mother's shame that she has dumped on me. Have I got that right? Yeah. This is all because of your mother's shame. Your fear of the hospital is her making you stand naked in front of the doctor. And yeah, that was sexual abuse because your mother was obviously getting some kind of thrill out of it. That possession of your body, that leering, that sexual leering that you feel is always, always there. The pulling down your pants in front of the doctor. Charlene's mother did the same thing to her at a doctor, just pulled down her pants in front of a male doctor. Didn't even care. This is sexual abuse. Yes, it is. And as far as your disability goes, narcissists don't like to be inconvenienced in any way, shape, or form. Whether they be personal, your parents, teachers, whoever. They don't want to be inconvenienced. And yes, some of them will get up close just so they can have a good look at your disability. I mean, that's just something I'm sure you've been dealing with throughout your life. At another workplace, I've been within earshot of a guy who was fobbed off about a volunteering position. He doesn't know it, but they were weary of him due to him having a speech impairment. They wrote him off for that. It was a cleaning helper position. How are people supposed to get on with their life if people don't give them a chance? Shock horror, both of the women are these arm flapping, controlling, just trying to help, interfering old bats, finger wagging baby boomers. In one of the places I worked at, there was a very narcissistic woman on reception who spoke to her husband like shit all day on the phone. Cheerleader at the lunch table type, she had a clique who followed her around. 1 year older than me. We were pregnant at the same time. Her baby had Down syndrome, so she had a termination at 14 weeks. Ollie, just my opinion, but I wouldn't have done that. She had to go back in the hospital and have it done again as they had not completed it, if you see what I mean. When she returned to work 5 weeks later, I had a small bump and she didn't. I felt bad for her and tried to avoid her. I felt in the wrong, and although nobody said it, I felt like the bad guy for being pregnant at work. It took her 2 years to conceive again. During that time, I had a son growing up. A guy who worked in our office caterers, E, was restocking the vending machine by our bank of desks and emptying the coins out. E had some form of a learning disability. He didn't know, but the guys on the desk behind me kept deliberately jamming up the coin bit, making it hard for him to empty it. Holding him up less time for other jobs, which frustrated him greatly. He took pride in his job. They did it as they thought it was funny to see that he was frustrated, but to him it was a big deal. Not nice to witness. One of them, R, had a gambling, coke habit, drinking issues. The other one, D, was an asshole narc type, called his then wife very often, asking what she's spending money on, what you doing. Don't get me wrong, I can take a joke the same as the next person, but I wanted to help E. He's a real nice person. I considered speaking to the facilities manager about it, who would have kicked their asses, but they would have known it was me who dropped them in, and it dropped them in it, but I didn't have the confidence to deal with them direct, or maybe that'd be sticking my oar in if I did. I felt pretty small then, and I didn't know what I should have, could have done. This was 10 years ago. Any input appreciated. Thanks so much, Anonymous. I don't think I knew you had a disability at all. So people make fun of people with disabilities, and it's a terrible thing to do, especially when it's something you can't control. All this type of behavior from these people says more about them. I understand why you're afraid to speak up. I mean, look what your mother did to you. Look at what you should have done is called them out to their faces. You should have stood up and said, stop jamming the fucking coin slot. What is it about you two that makes you want to pick on this guy? Go ahead, tell him. Tell him you're the one jamming it up. Keep the bosses out of it. That way it's face to face, and watch them cower in fear. Watch them cower in fear. I'm not blaming you for not doing that. Like, why would you? I mean, you've been exploited your whole life. But that's how you handle that. You make an example of them. What is wrong with you? This poor guy works his butt off. All he wants to do is a good job, and you two got to get your fucking rocks off by making his job harder and watching him get frustrated just for your fucking kicks. You gotta be, sometimes you just gotta be the one. You just gotta be the one. That way it's not secretive. Yeah, it's me. Yeah, I have a problem with it. And yeah, even though I'm vision impaired, I still see what you're doing. Even a blind person can see what you're doing. Stop it. That's how you handle guys like that. You will watch them cower in fear. So, you've been through a lot in your life, and you were right from birth with your disability. People are sick. Narcissists are sick. And you were nothing but an inconvenience to your mother, and she got off on the sexual abuse, and that is absolutely sexual abuse what your mother did to you. And it set you along this path of, you know, just being afraid to speak out and being viewed as the bad guy at all times. And, you know, it's carried on into work a little bit. 10 years ago, world was a lot different too. So who knows? Who knows? Take the knowledge you have now and use it going forward. Okay? As far as people like trying to get a look, like call them out on it when they get close like that. I'm like, are you just trying to get a look into my eyes? You can just ask me. And you're going to diffuse them real quick. Real quick. I don't think that nurse was attacking you. I think she was trying to build you up. That one. And because you're so sensitive about the chest thing, and like you might have read that one wrong. I could be wrong on that. I think she was trying to tell you what I'm telling you. Okay? You're stronger than you think. You can speak up. You can make your voice heard. And I think that's what you're doing through here anyway. So, thank you again for your continued support and your story. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any advice or opinions in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a narcissist you'd like to expose or a topic you'd like me to cover, you know what to do with the PayPal and my email links in the description box. I'll have a video right back to you. This is Ollie Matthews. Thanks for watching. See you all again soon.